Well, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm out in the shop doing what I usually do in the afternoon, which is watering orchids. One of the questions I get all the time is, how long do I keep my nutrient mix? How long is it good for, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just going to tell you what I do, and one of the couple of the reasons that what I believe in kind of, I guess, dictates how often I toss my mix and mix it fresh. This is fresh water, fresh rainwater with nutrient mixed into it. This is the same stuff except about 4 days old. It's had plants in it, off and on for the last 4 days. And it has a couple of mounts in it now, which they will start to put a little bit of tannins into the water, acid and stuff, and the water will start to change color like you see it right here. This is about a week old. This I'm getting ready to toss and mix up fresh, clean the container out real well and mix up fresh. But you can see there's a difference. That's really, really clear, just like there's nothing in it at all. This has a little bit of a tint to it, a little bit of a tint, and then this one's fairly yellow. You can see quite a bit of it there. Anyway, I keep mine for about a week, and one of the things you have to think about is after you run about 25 or 30 plants through it, or 40 plants, or 50 plants, or even more if you have more or less or whatever, whether you're pouring it through the plants and collecting it underneath, or whether you're letting the plants sit and soak in it, the plants are going to absorb what nutrients they want. So consider the fresh nutrient mix right there. I have fresh water mixed up with nutrients in it, and it hasn't had any plants in it yet. It's around 130 parts per million. I think it was 127 or something. But let's say 130 parts per million. That's a fresh buffet. Fresh food is put out, fresh buffet, right? All right. This is after about 25 people have hit it, and this is after about 75 people have hit it or whatever. It's going to be picked over quite a bit. The next party or next plants that come to the buffet are not going to get a lot to choose from, and whatever is left is stuff all the other plants left did not want, and they've absorbed it, everything that they wanted. You see my point. After a while, you're going to deplete your nutrient mix. You need to mix up fresh regardless. And again, that depends on the size of your collection and how many plants and how long you let them soak and everything else. Now, I monitor my nutrient mix, and as my water level goes down, because they absorb the water and the pots absorb the water, so the water level drops. Typically, the nutrient mix would concentrate, but mine usually goes down about the same amount. It doesn't really fluctuate a lot, which tells me they're absorbing a lot of nutrients along with the water also. Some of the plants are heavy feeders. I think it's what counts for some of it. Anyway, when it gets down a little bit, I add fresh water, and my number usually stays real close to what I started with. So I don't see a lot of up and down in my parts per million. But I know just because the plants are feeding, they're absorbing things that they want and leaving behind things that they don't want. So after a bunch of them have gone through the buffet, it's time to change it out and put fresh food out anyway. So you need to do it regardless of how it looks. But I know from just experience that when mine starts to get a yellow tint to this, the pH is starting to drop, and I've had a bunch of plants through it by this point, and it's pretty much been picked over, so it's time to go anyway. But you kind of have to look at your own collection, how many plants you have, how long you let them soak, if you're just pouring it through them or if you let them sit and soak. There's several factors involved, but monitor your mix just like you do you should do when you're mixing it up, and you'll start to notice subtle changes that will tell you that it's time to toss it. Either the numbers will fluctuate, go up and down. Either the pH usually starts to drop. I like to keep my pH in the low sixes. Once it starts to get in below 6 and down into the 5s, I'm tossing it, or I'm usually by that time tossing it. So again, that's just the way I do it. But I took a couple of old black shop towels, hung them up on the wall. I've got some plants here blooming that I was going to show you, and you guys don't ever get to really see the plants because I'm shaky, or it's not a good background or good lighting. So let me do what some other people do. Hang on just a second. If I put it on a tripod, it should get a much better look at the plant. I'm not shaking it, hopefully. A little bit better background. Not the best background, but probably better than me shaking it and holding on to it. This is that Epicad Hilo Adventure. It's a big plant. Catleya Spa Times, ERT, Kevin Mark Ragbird. This was a bag baby a little over a year ago, year and a half ago, and it's a huge plant. It's about 28-30 inches tall, up to about here, and then has almost a foot tall flower spike sticking out the top of it. Lots and lots of big canes. It's got several flower spikes coming out, and they're big flower spikes. Have a beautiful scent to it. I've said before, it kind of smells like the Avon Lady a little bit. To me, they're a real pretty flower. They last a good while. They'll be here for several weeks. But the scent, when the temperature gets warm, the scent that comes off of it's really, really, really pretty. I would say it's one of my favorites, but they're all my favorites, it seems like anymore. This plant's starting to mature, so the spikes are getting bigger, the flowers have more color, more scent, and just more detail. They're just a pretty plant, or just a much prettier flower than the very first ones I got off of it. But the plant seems to be doing real well, getting big, getting real big. I had to set it down here in order to get it on camera with the backdrop. Anyway, I've got a couple that are real big like this. This is I got two Dendrobiums last spring. One was a yellow one, and one was this burgundy, this dark burgundy one. And this one grew a new cane during the summer, and then sent up this flower spike, and it's just such a beautiful flower. It's much darker than than it looks on film. More like the one that's below it. You can see the darker color on it, but beautiful flower. It has a nice floral scent, just kind of a nondescript floral scent when it's warm. When the temperature gets around 80 degrees, I know so it's a really nice floral scent to it. But this plant did real well, grew a nice big cane for me, and some really nice root growth during the summertime. And I expect this summer it'll really do well. Hopefully get a couple of new canes out of it, and get even a better bloom out of it next year. Just such a pretty bloom. It's just probably a common, I think it's called burgundy black is the name of it, but just a common den fowl, but just a real pretty one, I think. Anyway, let me scoot you over here. I think that was all the really, really big ones I had. I think the rest of them will fit right here and do better. Hang on just a sec. These little guys are quickly becoming some of my favorite little plants. These are my calumnias. The one on the left is called Fur White, and the one on the right is called Big Red. These were a gift from a very special viewer. Happy birthday, by the way, Nina. These two little guys have grown very, very well for me. They're in little 4-inch clay pots with some big chunks of lava rock. They like to sit and soak, and they seem to like the nutrients. They take nutrients every time I give them moisture. They're getting nutrients at the same time. The white one has 2 flower spikes. It's sent out. There's another spike right up there. You can see buds haven't opened up just yet. It's going to be real pretty. And the red one just has the 1 spike. But lots of fan growth, lots and lots of root growth. I have a little bit of shredded coconut fiber pushed down in them initially to hold them into the pots in the lava rock, and they have since then grown roots all over the place. So as we get outside and the cocoa fiber starts to break down, I'll pull it out. I can just pull it out and dispose of it, and they'll just go crazy, I'm sure. I may get some moss growing on top to help keep some moisture on them, because they do seem to like the moisture. So they've done really, really well for me. I'm learning how to take care of them. They're a little more sensitive than just your basic, like an oncidium. Even though they look like an oncidium with their flower, they a little bit different care, but they're beautiful plants, and I love the blooms on them. I could see adding a couple more of these to my collection. Really, really like them. This one I've shown before, but it's just a beautiful one. BLC Windward Flair. Just a vigorous grower. Does really, really well for me. It's in a 5-inch pot, clay pot with pea gravel, and it's just completely covered up the surface of the pea gravel. You can turn it upside down and none of the rock will fall out anymore. You can see there's a new shoot coming out right there. It's always sending up new shoots. It's just getting bigger and bigger. It has a nice tight rhizome. It doesn't spread out too much, but this one is getting big enough to where it's growing out of the pot. I love the vertical upright growth on it, and the blooms have a large size. They last a long time, and just a beautiful plant. And an easy grower, I think, too. Really easy grower. Likes a lot of moisture and likes a lot of food, too. It can really take a lot of food. This is a beautiful little flower. This is a beautiful little plant. This is Laelia Gold Star times BLC Guess What. This was a gift from Raphael at his channel is Taming the Orchids on YouTube. And he sent this as a gift to me this past spring along with a couple other plants. And it's done beautiful. Grown a lot of roots. It got into the pot. It's planted in a 4-inch pot with some lava stone. It's done really well. Grew a new cane this past summer and now first time bloom again on this one. And just beautiful flower. It reminds me of daffodils. It's a deep gold color with these little red stripes on the throat, little ruffle and everything on the lip. Really, really pretty flowers. Just a beautiful plant. Just a beautiful plant. Really happy to have that one. This will be gorgeous when it gets to be a large clump. This will be a beautiful, beautiful plant. This one I've shown also, but it's just such a good grower. I think if you've run across one of these, get it and add it to your collection. PCV Golden Peacock, and it probably goes by a couple other names now probably too, but just a beautiful grower. I love that vertical upright growth. They like moisture, they like food. It's hard to over water them. They respond real well. They like lots and lots of light. Beautiful tangerine colored flower with those little spots on the lip, just beautiful. Seems to be a hardy one and just a vigorous grower. I can see this one. I'm probably going to have to tap that pot with a hammer and crack it in a couple of spots and put it into a bigger pot here this spring when we get some warmer weather and it's growing a little bit stronger, just so it can get bigger. You can tell it just wants to get bigger, but real pretty one. Really happy about this one too. Another one of my favorites. This is that little Dendrobium microchip that I got from the Orchid Show a couple of weeks ago. It's too becoming one of my favorites. I looked these up online, Googled them, and when you look them up online, all the plants have these incredible canopies of flower buds just all across the top of the plants. They're just incredibly covered in flowers, and I thought that's just amazing. Wow, everybody has really good luck growing these, and this one struggled a little bit for the first couple of weeks and month here when I first had it. I've had it now for several months, but that was until I realized that it just absolutely loves moisture and it loves lots of food. So this one, whenever I can think about it, I set it in the nutrient mix and let it sit and soak. And if it soaks overnight, it just seems like it just makes it happy as can be. The flower spikes come out even bigger and harder, it seems like. It just seems to be no limit to the amount of food and stuff that this one will take. And it hasn't started growing canes or anything yet, but the existing canes that are on there are nice and round and plump now. So I'm expecting when the days get longer and weather gets a little bit warmer, springtime comes, I would imagine this one should hopefully get a whole bunch of new growth on it. It would be really, really nice. But easy to bloom, not a problem. Just feed it and water it all the time and it just blooms. All the old canes now, which were leafless and had no spikes or anything on them, all have flower spikes now or multiple spikes coming out of them. So I was wondering how everybody got them to bloom so rapidly or so readily and so thick like that, and apparently they're just feeding them like crazy. So they're apparently a little pig, so I'm doing the same and it seems to be responding. Really, really nice one. I love them. I love one that you can't like overfeed and overwater, that's a blessing. Makes it easy for you, I think. For me it does. This is a gorgeous one. This one just opened up over the last day. It's just the one on the right is finally still open. This is RLC Valcano Melody Valcano Queen. This was a bag maybe a year or so back, and this has been a great grower. It's one of those really thick bulb type growers, big hard fat leaves that feel like plastic. Nice tight rhizome. It doesn't want to spread around and climb out of the pot. It's staying tight. Lots and lots of root growth. This one's in a little 5-inch clay pot with pea gravel, and it's just doing wonderful. And the bloom is just spectacular, I think. Reminds me of those big old, corsage type Cattleya blooms. Just a great big thick one. Beautiful color. Beautiful details. Just a really pretty one. That's a first time bloomer for me, and it's done really, really well. So I'm really happy with that one too. Really happy with that one. That'll be spectacular, when it gets to become a big plant. I hope so anyway. Let me see, I think I got one more. This is one of my Phalaenopsis. Let me step back a little bit so I can take this little fat puppy in. This is one of the second Phalaenopsis I ever had. I think the first one I had I killed, and this is one of the few that did start. One of the first ones I ever had that hung in there, and it's done really, really well, starting to really stack up leaves and holding onto its flower spikes. And this plant has taught me so much about growing Phalaenopsis. It's just taught me so much, and it's confirmed so much of the research that I've read and said, well, if the research says to do this, then I would try it. And sure enough, the plant's responding. I got it to hold on to its original spikes, and then it's a couple of spikes, and then 4 on the last round, and then now it's held on to those 4, branched those all off, and they're blooming, and it also grew 4 new ones, so I've got 8 flower spikes now on this one. So this next round, I'm really anticipating close to 20 flower spikes on it. Oops, 20 flower spikes possibly, or more. Depends on how the plant does this year. I've learned a little bit more on their care, so we'll see. I'm trying to get those leaves to stack up too. It all has to do with the nutrition and understanding of Phalaenopsis needs. Without big bulbs and canes like Dendrobiums and Cattleyas have, they only have leaves and spikes to store nutrients. So Phalaenopsis need a very steady, constant supply. If they miss a meal, it hurts them. If they miss several meals, they'll drop a lower leaf or start eating a flower spike. If you keep it nice and steady to them, they'll hold on to the flower spikes, and you get crazy blooming like this. I think I've counted like 30 bloom buds already, and they're still popping out. And this will get even better and better every year. But they'll stack up those leaves. If you have 10 or 12 leaves stacked up and you lose a lower leaf because you missed a meal or something, or you forgot to feed them, for a week or two, it's not that big a deal. But when you have 3 leaves and you lose a lower one, that's really, detrimental to the health of that Phalaenopsis. So anyway, this has been just a great plant to help me learn a lot. I need to get my Phalaenopsis out one afternoon, put them all in a big pile, and show you all the just incredible blooms coming and all the growth on them and how well they're doing. I've got a few that need to be repotted and a few that have some other issues, and I'll talk about that, I guess, when I get them out one afternoon and do it. But I just wanted to show you some of the blooms. Hopefully with the dirty black towel behind there, it was a little bit better view than me shaking. I know everybody says they don't, some people, not everybody, but a lot of people say they don't like a white phal. That's their least favorite orchid. And I understand that. Very common, I guess. But even the white one, and this particular one has I can get it up just a little bit, shake everybody too, but has a really pretty little throat on it even still though. Has real pretty yellow band around the throat, little red stripes inside, little speckling spots, really pretty one. Even though it's white, very common. This is a no ID. It's still a really pretty plant. Oops, it's still a real pretty plant, but it's more the color of it and everything for this one to me. To me, this is a plant I'm learning a lot from. This plant has taught me a lot, so it's a lot more than just a white phal to me. But anyway, I'm going to get back to it, take care of my plants, get to watering. I hope you guys will do the same. Thank you for all those wonderful questions. Gosh, I love all those great questions. And thanks for all the kind words, all the thoughts, all the prayers, all the messages. Thank you so much, very much, from Jan and I both. And Happy New Year. And I'll see you soon. Have a great evening.